Hey guys, welcome to the video. This is the second part of how we are turning a file in Archicad or BIM into a photorealistic rendering. So if this is the first time you watching this video, I recommend you to go to the first part where we explain how to go from upward towards a presentation and then having the right components towards like getting something like that is photorealistic. So this is the second part of the video, and if you saw the first part of the video, you saw me getting all the images up to here. So just as a little recap of the other video, which will be, I'm gonna try to do this in a 2-minute recap. So first of all, we started with an Archicad file, right? We started with an Archicad file. It could be a Revit file, it could be a SketchUp file, it could be a Rhino file, which it has enough detail, right? You need, because you're gonna have a photorealistic rendering, you wanna make sure you put enough detail in the model for it to actually show up, right? Because the more information you give to the rendering software or the AI engine, the better results it's gonna give you without having to have some turnarounds, right? Otherwise, unless you're flexible with the materials, then don't give it as much detail. But in this case, we wanted to kind of make it more detailed. So the first thing we did is generate like a 3D model that actually has the right details, at least, you know, as far as, you know, materials, roof, beams, structure, and that. Then afterwards, we put it in Enscape, right? And we actually put all the foliage, furniture, and things like that. Archicad is not really good into libraries, so that's why I kind of balance it with Enscape. But if you have Revit or Rhino or SketchUp, you can use Enscape, you can use Twinmotion, you can use DeFi, you can use Lumion, you can use whatever you want to, because at the end of the day, it's not a matter how you render it. You know, so for instance, this is the file here, but I was able to get a very quick. So for instance, this is the not that one, sorry. This is the, oh no, what's going on here? Sorry. So this is the outcome that I gave to the AI. So this is kind of what I got from Enscape, and I'm sure that if you use Twinmotion or anything else, you could get something like this where it still looks animated a little bit, but you can still add a filter where you can still have line weights. If you don't have a rendering engine, I'll still suggest you to do it in Archicad or Revit and just get a nice 3D view that has enough strong line weight, right? That you can still get something like this, like 3D view, make sure it has a strong line weight, and you can still get something good out of that too. So, but this was my base rendering of how I started, right? Like once I was done with Enscape, this is how I started, but you can tell like it still does not look photorealistic. And the reason why I end up with putting these line weights as far as a filter in Enscape was because in that way you kind of help the AI read the lines better. Whereas if you just give it a photorealistic rendering or like a rendering from Twinmotion or something else, but it doesn't have the lines, sometimes it doesn't read the components as well. So make sure whatever rendering you're using to activate the outline and kind of give it some nice line weight so it reads the materials better. From there, you might have to do a little modifications depending on how well it reads it. So for me, I had to create a mask here and delete the lines here just because it was not reading the lamp that well. And that's pretty much it. I mean, once you have these in place, what I did next was that I came to ChatGPT. You can use DeepSeek, you can use anything really that kind of helps you describe. You can even use Midjourney itself. If you use Midjourney and use the #describe and upload the image, and it will automatically give you a description of the image. But in this case, what I did, I used ChatGPT, and what I did is uploaded the image and I literally gave it this prompt here. You can use any prompt, but I pretty much said that if he acted as an experience, I kind of give it a persona. And from a persona, I told the ChatGPT to give me a detailed prompt, emphasizing the architecture, environment, and style of material qualities. And this is kind of what I got. I kind of did just a few modifications to it, but from this really gives you a nice detailed description. Then later you can put to that description. The only thing I added was a photorealistic image, just to kind of emphasizing that I want a photorealistic image to Midjourney. With this, again, you can use Midjourney, you can use Kriya, you can use other components, other AI tools that are gonna give you these quality results. But this is pretty much what I got, and as I mentioned before, the important thing is like once you kind of have this, is to kind of do the iterations, enough iterations so you get enough results. Let's see if I go to edit and go to view all. I did spend probably like good 25 minutes going through all these iterations, right? Creating all these iterations. And from there, you're always gonna get the top 3, 4 that you wanna use as components. And this was the last recap on the last video, really. And from there, really what I wanna show you is how you go from there. So now you have the rendering that it's not necessarily photorealistic, but now you have photorealistic images from Midjourney, right? Now, something I want to say is like, if you're still flexible with the design, you could potentially just be done with it right now, right? Like you can get a image that is close enough, good enough, that it's kind of like what you want to portray if you're not that specific with the furniture or things like that. And from there, maybe just go to the editor. After this, you upscale the image, you go to the editor, and then you edit like maybe just a few things that you want to edit, and that's it. And you're done, and you have a photorealistic rendering without you having to go all the way back to Photoshop and modify it. If you're still flexible with, for instance, it kind of changed a little bit here, the material. And sometimes it does have like a few things. For instance, this is not 100% centered. And sometimes you might have to go to Photoshop or just kind of edit it from here. Just come here, create a mask and edit. But if you're flexible, you could potentially just be done with it in Midjourney or Create, whatever you're using. So, but in my case, I'm not as flexible. So I really wanted to have, I still have a little flexibility, but I do want to have most of it of what I've shown in Enscape or Archicad. So the next step is really take the images that you really like and you want to actually grab components from and put it in Photoshop, right? So the thing about Photoshop, the good thing is like you're going to have to use 2 to 3 tools in Photoshop. You don't really need to be an expert. The only thing you really need to use in Photoshop is really the masking and the generative fill, along with potentially the camera raw or the filter gallery, just to kind of adjust a few things. But this is kind of more or less the process that I did. So as you can see, I duplicated a lot of times, sometimes the images, just because there were a few times where I wanted to grab a lamp, like I wanted to grab the ceiling, but I want to grab that. But because they were in 2 different areas and I didn't want to, you know, having to do a mask, 2 masks in a row, I just did like a mask. I duplicated the layer, I duplicated the image, right? So I duplicated this one, for instance, sofa 1, sofa 2 copy. So I did a copy here, and then I did another one just so I could adjust the lighting a little bit. Sometimes I'll do a few things here and there, but the only thing you really need is to, for instance, if I start, I'm gonna start, for instance, I'm gonna show you kind of how we did things here. Hopefully I'm not. Let's delete that one. So hide everything here so you can kind of get an idea of exactly what's that what thing I did here. Cleaning up the file. So as you can see, I start with the original image from Enscape in Archicad, right? So this is what I got. As you can tell, like I kind of make it a little bit more artistic, where I did like a little field view here, right? So it's a little bit more like a close-up. Where these more blur, and then you start kind of getting more detail into the image. So from there, I really start kind of, I put the outline, you know, I outlined that, which is not that important, but then I created, these are the other ones. This is the base file I use, because this is the image I like the most. This is the image that I thought, okay, this one here is what shows like 85% of what I want to do, right? Except for a few things that it's not right. So for instance, here I wanted to still kind of have the blurriness here. I still wanted to kind of have a different, kind of the furniture is right, just a different material on the furniture. And then the fireplace, I still needed with that same stone, because the client wanted the stone that was shown on the Archicad file. So those are the 3-4 things that I wanted to change. And there are a few more other things, but those were the main ones that I was thinking of changing. So along with that, I created like a copy here just so I created a copy here just so I could, in case I needed to modify something, I could just not modify the actual base. Then from there, as you can see, I created a mask on the main file and just brought in the fireplace here. Then I adjusted with a curve, I adjusted a little bit so it kind of blends a little bit more with the image. From there, as you can tell, I brought the image, but I just brought just a different component of it, but it's still the main image. It's still the original image. You can see the couch and that, right? It's just that I brought it as a different mask, just so not everything comes in the same mask. So then later on, I can have more control on adjusting the curves or the levels or different colors. And that's why I normally like name them, right? Fireplace, for instance, this one here is the sofa, right? And then the sofa here, you see how I duplicated the layer and adjusted the lighting there. But a lot of this is just masking. So it's not like you're doing rocket science. The only thing you need to know is how to mask, copy, and do it. And then later on, maybe I can be a little bit more detailed exactly how I mask things. But it's not rocket science. It's just literally knowing how to mask things, putting a layer on top of the other, and make sure like each component that you like on each image is actually being portrayed in the rendering. From there, I kind of changed the coffee table along with the carpet a little bit, right? And then you can kind of blend it. I did change the lamp, as you can see there. Then from there, I did this fireplace, but I was noticing that it was not getting exactly what I wanted. It was not giving me that sense of photorealism. This is more like if I was still very conceptual and I just wanted to show that this was a fireplace, then I would have maybe done this, right? Because it's just showing the idea. But then I was like, well, I don't like it like that. So that's why I'm showing it yellow. I was just kind of looking at it having yellow. A good thing is like once you're done with one layer, just right click here, put color and give it a green, just so you don't kind of have to come back and guess what is halfway baked and what is not. Like to me, this is the way I like to do it, because it shows me like, okay, yellow for me is in progress, which I kind of like, but I still think I need to work on it. If I don't have a color, it means that I still need to work on that. I haven't really revised those. And green means like, okay, I've touched on it, it's good to go, and it's green, so I can kind of forget about it. Later on here, as you can see, I did the blurriness here, right? But then I was, well, I don't know, and then I start kind of getting the apples there, because I kind of like the apples of the other one. Still has that glossiness to it that I think it's better portrayed in there, is not too muted. I adjusted that with the main image, right? Then I brought this fireplace, but I thought it actually matches kind of what I want to show, and without me having to really model it or anything like that. And this is just like something that I did. I literally just went to Pinterest, put fireplace, and that's the way I did it. And that's it. I just brought this in, just kind of adjusted the thing here and mask it, and that's it. I mean, that's all I did. Then I added like a little bit of the light here, as you can tell. And then here's the other thing. So besides just masking and putting layers on top, to finalize it, I start actually using generative fill. And that's great, because sometimes you don't even have to describe. Like for instance, if you can tell like here, sometimes it does like little weird things, right? Because once you start kind of getting into AI, you realize that sometimes the image is not great. For instance, you see that little white stuff and these little things here whenever I'm actually creating the masks. Sometimes the AI, what we'll do is it not respect the sofa layout like 100%. Sometimes it will have little weird things happening, right? So whenever I create a mask on the sofa, maybe this is like a little pillow, white pillow from the previous image. So the only thing I did is literally, and you see how these little artifacts come here. So the only thing I did a lot of times is literally just do the generative fill. Like I will go here, right, and I will select the base image, right? Like for instance, if I'm modifying the base image like this one, then I will go there. I will create, first of all, so once I have this and it's ready to go, and I know I still need some generative fills that it's creating some little weird things here and there, then I will create a new image, right? So with this one here is a new image, so I will just say file, export, create PNG, and then bring that in again here. And then from that image, right, that this is a new reference, then I can start kind of doing this. So for instance, I will do this, and then I will just do generative fill and generate. And many times I will not even have to tell Photoshop AI how to fix it. It will automatically know, oh, okay, that's a defect, so I'll fix it, and it will automatically create that mask, right? So you see how you hide it? Many times it will do it, some other times it will not do it the right way, but that's it. I mean, once you have that, that's how I created like 6 fills, right? It covered that one, it covered that defect, and 90% of the times I didn't even have to tell the thing what to do, right? Once that's done, it's pretty much done. I mean, I created a new mask, right? I again did the export, create a PNG, put it on top, and then I went to filter gallery, and then I did filter gallery, camera raw filter, and then I adjusted a little bit of the lighting there. You see how it kind of changes, just to kind of add a little more just dramatic lighting, and then to compile everything to make sure everything blends and everything seems out of the same image, just in case for whatever reason I missed something. Then I go here and put this on a filter, a very mild, you can tell like it's a very mild, oh sorry, I actually forgot that I have like put like a little mild filter that is just enough so everything blends. And that's kind of what you want to do at the very end, put like a very mild color filter. You don't have to, but this is the way I do it, just to make sure that it gives it that a little extra thing in the case I miss something that is not quite looking that it's part of the same image, so it blends it better. And then after that I just went there and export that as a PNG. Finally, because it's an AI image, sometimes it has some pixelation. So the last thing I did is I'm using this tool called Topaz Photo AI. You can use other tools. At the end of the day, this is just upscaler, so it enhances the image. So at the end of the day, the only thing I did was like I brought the image here, right? And you can tell how some things are still pixelated, are not looking 100% great. I mean, it's still a little pixelated. So what I did is just went here, sharpened this a little bit, create a little bit of denoise, right? So it kind of sharpens a little bit the image here. It's sharpened as I just did all, right? So everything just gets a little sharper. You see how that lamp becomes a little sharper, just a little bit. You can adjust the lighting here, you can adjust a few things here, and then finally, yeah, you upscale it. So it's just that nice high fidelity V2 I like to use. And from there, you have a nice 4K image, right? Like this is more than a 4K image, but you have a very nice photorealistic image. So that's pretty much what I did to generate a photorealistic image from Archicad. Now, you might look at the whole process and realize, well, this is still a lot of work. And I'll tell you, it's still a fraction of the work that an Archicad artist will put to actually generate. Like, if you actually hire a 3D artist to do this, they will have to bring your Archicad file to 3ds Max. They will have to redo the file in 3ds Max. They will then have to render it. Now, then we'll have to create a camera, a composition. The lighting has to be right. There has to be a lot. They will send you it's like white model renderings for you to even get the sense that if it's right. You might have to do a few modifications on the furniture and stuff. Then you might have to kind of adjust what's happening outside. Whereas the AI kind of gave me a lot of what's going on in the outside. This will take a while to generate, like in model, like to get the right stone, to get the plants. I mean, something that will take you maybe a couple of weeks to get from an artist, you're probably getting in a good 6 hours to 8 hours of work. It's starting from the model, right? Like modeling it, once you have the model, you're kind of getting all the furniture there, getting the right camera, Enscape. So it's a lot of things still, but still is a fraction of the time that it will take an Archicad artist to do that. I mean, if you're actually working with an Archicad artist, or you're actually doing this from you are trying to become the artist of bringing that to 3ds Max or bringing that to Blender and do this saves you so much time. It's like days, if not weeks. So even though it takes a little bit of work, that's kind of as of right now the state to kind of create a photorealism image from a BIM software without any major disturbance, right? Like if you think about it, Enscape is probably the easiest thing to use. You can use Twinmotion, all those are still easy to use. And even like that, you can, if you're just a BIM user, you can just spend your time actually bringing assets from Archicad and put them here, generate a nice image here like that, or something like which has a nice straight line, and then going directly to AI with skipping the rendering engine. And you might still get like images that are photorealistic like this. And then the only thing in Photoshop you need to learn are 3 tools, right? It's just masking, the camera raw filter, and the generative fill. And that's it. That's all the 3 tools you need to know. You don't have to be this magician in Photoshop, right, to do all this. So this is the workflow that I'm using. I'm gonna keep showing you more images and how the process can become even simpler. So I hope you like this video, and I hope you can start practicing this workflow.